Today, I am 41 years old, which is crazy. Everyone always told me that as you get older, you still feel, at least mentally, like you're young. Totally get what they're saying. Part of me still feels like I'm 18 riding a skateboard. But then on the other hand, I think all the responsibility I have in my life makes me feel much older than that. But here we are. I'm 41. I have now been a pro skateboarder, an entrepreneur, my first business, St. Archer, my current business, Commune Capital, and I'm also a city council member. So I figured today I would do the most important lesson I learned in each career I've had so far. Hopefully that'll be valuable. It's 20 years of experience that hopefully I can offer to anyone who's young, who hasn't gone through this yet. So I would say skateboarding. The number one lesson I learned was probably that failure is just part of the process to succeed. A lot of people fear failure, and there's in a lot of ways, no reason to do so, because once I started seeing failure as a necessary step that had to be taken to get to your end goal, it actually freed up what I viewed as possible. So skateboarding, and basically what would happen to us all the time, we would try a trick over and over and over. A lot of times I would try to learn the trick, which maybe would take, I don't know, let's call it a month. And then I would go out and try the trick in the streets. This could be 2-3 hours of trying the trick. With skateboarding, when you messed up, it hurt. So there was a pain element, because every time you jump off a 12 stair, it doesn't feel good. So your body is telling you to stop. There's a fear element, exhausting yourself trying to get past. And then there's just the mental war of trying to stay committed to this painful exercise until you land your trick. That started happening almost every single day. And before I knew it, failure was just something I no longer feared. And then when I stepped out into business, that was a huge skill that I had built through skateboarding. When you start a business, a lot of times it feels like it's not working. It feels very chaotic. It's scary. That's all part of the game. It's every day. So I think me stepping into business, I was comfortable being in a scenario that felt a little bit chaotic, and then I was able to get through it. So I think that came from skateboarding. That was the number one lesson I learned. 2, the biggest lesson I learned when we started St. Archer, which was a craft brewery, very saturated at that time. The importance of separating yourself from others. The idea is when you're going into a saturated industry, the ocean is red, there's blood everywhere. And you need to figure out how to take yourself out of that red ocean scenario and put yourself into a blue ocean where no one else exists. The first time I heard of that concept, I naturally took it as, okay, you have to invent something that has never been done, and that's how you put yourself in a blue ocean scenario. What we learned through St. Archer is that's actually not true. We moved into a saturated industry, right? The craft beer world was exploding, and there were a lot of brands. So what we did is we found something that separated us from everyone else. What that was for our company was really marketing. We went out and created a brand that told a story of what we viewed California as. And we did it through individuals with their story. So for example, instead of doing what everyone else in the craft beer industry would do, which is put a photo in a magazine of their beer, we would create a 5-minute video on Paul Rodriguez, and there'd be no mention of beer. It would just say presented by St. Archer. Then we'd tell Paul's story, have the tie-in be California, and then when people watched it, they resonated with Paul, they viewed the state the same way we did, and then they purchased our beer because that was the product that connected them with the vision. That's how we created a scenario where we are in a lane of our own. So you can go into a saturated market where there's proof of concept and then create something that differentiates yourself from everyone else, which then puts you in blue. That was a game changer. So that was probably the number one lesson I learned from St. Archer. The number one thing I learned from Commune is probably the importance of communication. Our company, we have investors. We have a lot of them, almost 500. How you manage the communication with your investors, in my perspective, will be the biggest differentiating factor on how you grow, if you grow, or how large. What happens with investments are the hardest thing to sell, and they take a lot of trust for an individual to give you their money. And so when things go wrong, and this is the thing about investing, there will always be things that go wrong. When things go wrong, what a lot of groups have the tendency to do is just not talk about them and only talk about the good. What I found, and probably the number one thing I've learned from Commune, is tell your investors when things went wrong. That's okay when things go wrong. What your investors want to know is, 1, they want to know what's going on. They don't want to be left in the dark. And 2, most people are aware that when you go out and do something, nothing actually goes according to plan. They want to see how you make decisions in that adversity. What was the problem? what was your solution and how was the ultimate impact? What was the ultimate impact to me? That alone has, in my perspective, brought us from the original 30 to where we are now as far as number of investors go. So no matter what you're doing, I think transparency and communication and letting them know the good and the bad will actually build more trust with you than those that only promote something good happening. And it will put you in a position where you can succeed in your industry for a long, long time. Last one is city council. I think the number one thing I learned from city council was through the campaign. And it was the first time I had to build a team without an ability to pay people. People were donating their time. What would happen is you would see your walkers or any part of your team kind of start getting fatigued. Like they were just kind of starting to get burnt out. And what I found was you need to make everybody feel like they're a part of something. Make them feel valued and a part of a bigger mission. If you're just working them and trying to just squeeze everything out of them, one, I think it's a bad experience for them. And two, you get less time with them. What does that mean in context? Try to make it fun. Like when we were knocking on doors, right? Knocking on doors, handing them a card saying, vote for Mikey Taylor. There's not really anything fun about that, right? What we would do is we would have kind of a game with like a point system where every day a certain amount of group would go and walk. We'd see how many doors we hit in an amount of time. And then that night there'd almost be a scoreboard that we sent out to the group, who got what. And it just made it a little bit more fun. And then what I would do as, I don't know, you call it the leader in this scenario, was I would text people, I would call them and just say like, Tawny, you killed it today. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And just let it be known that they're appreciated. And also make it fun, gamify it if you can. Maybe I'll do this every year. I'm not sure what I'm gonna learn this next year, but I hope this added value, whether you're a skateboarder, entrepreneur, local politician, you have anything that aligns with what I'm doing. I hope this was helpful. Hit the like button if you liked it. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Then you'll get notified when I do more videos like this. Thank you guys. I'll see you next video.